What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome back for some more Fire Emblem Heroes, and this is going to be my comprehensive analysis and review of the Awakening units, Miriel, Flavia, Priam, and Basilio. I'll be going over the best builds that you can run on them for different game modes like PvE, Arena, Aether raids, and Summoner duels. And they did come with the Banner of Ash, but I was not able to review them at the time because of my own time constraints, and I didn't really want to skip them because I know many of you guys actually like these units a lot and want to build them up. So I hope you all do enjoy, and let us begin. So Miriel is a blue infantry mage with Blar Lion as the inheritable weapon. This provides her with +5 attack and resistance during the combat, and can also give the adjacent allies +6 attack buff. This is a decent weapon on budget, but if you try to invest a bit more into her, you can certainly run better blue tomes, which provide her with better secondary effects in my opinion. And her stat spread is actually pretty good at base 37 attack and base 40 speed, while also having a super boon in it. She doesn't have a preferred weapon, but still she's a pretty solid demote unit because of this offensive stat spread alone. She also has attack speed ideal 3 at 5 star and speed resistance link at 4 star. So the link skill is incredibly good for support, and attack speed ideal provides you a way of inheriting attack speed oath as well as the tier 4 version of attack speed ideal from Luis. So if we get more units with attack speed ideal 4, so we can use Miriel as a way of optimizing skill inheritance from those premium units who have premium skills. And attack speed ideal 3 on its own is a pretty decent skill on a budget because it provides you with +5 attack and speed in both phases. And the activation condition is really easy to meet because it's not that hard to give any kind of unit some buffs. Now let's compare Miriel to the existing blue mages and see how she does compared to them. So we do have Sai and Luin as a 5-star logged seasonal blue infantry mage, and Miriel is basically like an easy summonable version of him. She doesn't have as much resistance as him, but still makes up for the fact that she's got better defense at max investment, and it's also easier to max invest into her to begin with because she's going to be present in the 3-star 4-star pool. Compared to some of the other free-to-play blue mages, we can compare her to Tail 2 and Tatiana. Because of the resplendent stats of Tail 2, at max investment she can certainly pretty much come up to the level of Miriel, but keep in mind that you're going to be using 15 extra dragon flowers, and you also need to, refine her weapon with divine dews. Tail 2 might not have the most modern preferred weapon, but still she does have a preferred weapon at the end of the day, which Miriel does not. Blue mages like Tatiana pretty much have a lot more resistance, but Miriel pretty much puts all of those points into her speed as well as defense, so she's not all that frail on the physical side and can certainly keep up with a lot of the fast units because of her high speed stat and also having a super boon in it. So for the budget build, you can just run Savage Blow on Miriel and have Moonbow as her special. You can also run Resistant Smoke, but it's not the easiest to get. Defense Tactic is also a way if you just want to build up a budget buff bot in the form of Miriel. And we did receive 2 free copies of her at 5 stars, so certainly everyone can just use her for Arena Assault. If you want to invest a bit more into Miriel, then Pack Blooms Plus in my opinion is a pretty nice weapon at +10 merge because it provides you with healing, and that can be really good if you're running the tier 4 version of the ideal skill. So because Miriel already has the tier 3 version, if you have an extra Luis lying around, you could inherit the tier 4 version of the ideal skill as well as attack speed oath. And this can allow Miriel to basically get +9 attack and speed in both phases, and the healing of Pack Blooms can certainly help you just get back to full HP and also take less damage because of the attack debuff. Of course, this is not the most foolproof plan, and attack speed ideal is not actually that ideal of a slotted skill for her, but still this is something that you can work with her. We can also run her with Flora Guide Plus, which can provide her with some in-combat debuffs, and it can also help your allies, and you can just stack up a lot more debuffs. Lot speed resistance will stack up with the Flora Guide debuffs, and this could be a pretty nice build for PvE. You can run a Menace skill or a Smoke skill to just get even more debuffs, but this time these can be the visible debuffs. So Miriel can be pretty fast with this kind of build and outspeed a lot of units, even the modern ones. But lacking the null follow-up is going to be affecting some of the matchups, and I definitely feel like I prefer having null follow-up on Miriel. Now if you want to run Desperation build on her, you can certainly do that with Fury Desperation, but a bit better Desperation build is going to be by using Juicy Wave Plus, the weapon that has got Desperation built into it. So this frees up your slot B skill to run null follow-ups so that you can easily do your follow-up attack even against the enemies who have follow-up negation, and Swift Sparrow and Blade Session are going to be the player phase skills which can go with this kind of player phase build. And if you want to use her in Arena, then she can certainly be used with B-Dual Infantry 4. Pack Blooms Plus is again a really solid weapon here because it provides you with the attack debuff, so in that way she can have a bit better defense and stacking up her defense is definitely something you want to do because her resistance is pretty decent, and having more defense is certainly going to be helping you in those physical matchups or against the units who have got distant counter in their weapon or slot A. Null follow-up again is going to be helping you tremendously. She mainly has null follow-up and lull speed resistance as the options. Both are pretty good in arena, but again null follow-up is going to be helping you get past those annoying follow-up negation units, and that also utilizes Miriel's high speed. Because of the fact that she doesn't have a preferred weapon, you have to run some kind of 300 SP slot C skill, and jointer of attack can be a pretty good option to increase her damage output against a lot of the whale units. And then if you want to use her in AETHER offense, then I feel like there are definitely other blue infantry mages like Guinevere, Micaiah who can be used, but if you really want to use Miriel, then I guess you can use her with this kind of build with attack speed unity and have her with a near save unit. I pretty much use my Guinevere in the same way, but of course Miriel doesn't have effective damage against mages, so you can boost up her damage output with the unity skill, the joint drive skill, and also attack res solo. And because she doesn't have the highest resistance, running air and dagger to boost up her resistance is going to be certainly helpful to tank a lot of the mages, and because she's going to be on the front line, she can just absorb the attack speed menace of a note and power herself with the unity skill. You can also run Spider Plush if you want to, but Miriel is going to be pretty fast and she's not going to get doubled by much because she's running null follow-up, so that's why getting the healing from Pack Blooms is a bit more preferred in my opinion than having the guard effect. And paired with a near save unit like Arden or Valentine Gustav, she can do a decent enough job with this kind of range tanking build. Flavia is a sword infantry unit with Lioness Blade as her preferred weapon. This provides her with -1 special cooldown, and at start of combat if she's above 25% HP, then she can get +6 attack and speed during the combat, and whenever she triggers her special, she can have the null damage reduction. So this is pretty much a Deadeye effect, but this is pretty unique because Flavia is the first melee unit to have this kind of effect built into her weapon. She also has another condition in her weapon, so if she's above 25% HP and if the foe is above 75% HP, then she can get special acceleration per attack. This special acceleration kind of works like Special Fighter, where she can get the acceleration both on her attack as well as the enemy's attacks, and this works in both phases. There's actually a mistranslation of her weapon in the game itself, but here as you can see I've got the correct translation. Now even though there are million sword infantry units and this is really competitive class type and many people might not be incentivized to pull for her, I still feel like Flavia is a pretty solid unit in her own right because of having this niche with her weapon that provides her with the null damage reduction and the fact that she can spam specials, which can be really helpful with this kind of Deadeye effect. So even though Flavia is fast enough to not really care about speed-based damage reduction, there are a lot of really flat damage reduction skills like on Fallen Edelgard, on Brave Erika, Legendary Claude's Fallen Star, and stuff like that. So the fact that she can just ignore those damage reduction skills and one-shot the units is going to be extremely good. So I've run some of the calcs, and if she runs like Luna for example and takes on someone like Legendary Sigurd, she's instantly going to be one-shotting him. So those are the things that she can do which not many other melee units can do, and having that null damage reduction is certainly going to be helpful in a time where we have got so many units with all kinds of damage reduction. She also has Red Feud, and this is a new line of skill. We have seen this on Winter Lysithea, and in my opinion Colorless Feud is a lot better as a feud skill because of the colorless support units that you have to face. Still, Red Feud can help you in certain matchups like Legendary Sigurd, which I mentioned before, is certainly going to be a matchup that she's going to be facing a lot in Aether Raids or even in Arena Assault. So Red Feud can certainly help you there, but there are definitely other skills which you can also run on her slot C. As for her stat spread, she has got a pretty standard offensive stat spread of 40 base attack and 41 base speed, while also having Super Boon in both of these. Depending on your builds, you can prefer having plus attack IV so that you can get better one-shots, or just have the plus speed IV so that you can double better or make use of the damage reduction skills better. So it really depends on the builds that you're going to be running. Her physical bulk is alright and she can certainly tank some physical hits, but her resistance is definitely pretty low and her weapon doesn't really give her any kind of extra bulk. If she wants to get some kind of extra bulk, then she has to run a damage reduction skill. Now as for the budget build, you will certainly have to run something really bootleg or have to invest a bit more into her, because Flavia's base kit isn't really the best. Attack speed push 4 is nice, but it doesn't have the best synergy with her weapon that requires her to be above that HP threshold. And she also has no slot B, and having good slot B skills on budget is certainly going to be annoying. You can run speed defense length and reposition from Norn, and that is going to be a super budget option with attack speed solo secret seal. But if you want to invest a bit more into her, then running attack speed solo for her slot A so that she doesn't take any kind of recall damage, or running a damage reduction skill can certainly help you. So this particular build can also be run in summoner duels with a droid captain, because you can get the damage reduction from the slot B and also get the null follow up from the captain skill. Now running Luna is definitely pretty nice on her so that she can retaliate back with it in the enemy phase and one-shot so many of the bulk units by piercing through their damage reduction as well. So the special acceleration of Flavia is certainly really good and should be abused with specials like these. Speaking of abusing them with specials, Aether and Special Spiral is certainly a combo for maybe like a PvE build. So even though Special Spiral is not the greatest slot B skill, it can certainly be fun with this kind of build where Aether can be at 4 cooldown, and once it has been set up by Special Spiral, she can just retaliate back with Aethers all the time in the enemy phase. This build can also be used to trigger Aether in the player phase because of attack speed push 4 and the fact that she can get special acceleration in both phases. The recall damage of attack speed push 4 is going to be annoying, but still you can get a lot of healing with that Aether. And she also pierces through the damage reduction skills, so Aether can definitely hit pretty hard even against many of the bulky opponents. If you want to use Flavia exclusively in the player phase, then you can run her with Surge Sparrow, and this can certainly keep her healthy because of the healing that you get, and you can run Moonbow and have Time Pulse. So this will pre-charge your Moonbow so that you can have better one-shot potential in the player phase. And if the opponent survives your first Moonbow, then you can just trigger another Moonbow, because even if the opponent has got the guard skill, she can still have the special acceleration and charge it up and just hit them with another Moonbow and heal back up the HP. Now keep in mind that Surge Sparrow does work on the max special cooldown. So here the max special cooldown is only 1, so she can get up to 30% healing, which is still not that bad considering the fact that she can actually trigger this kind of special twice in many combats. You can also use her in Aether Raid's offense, and her main role is going to be to deal with the damage reduction units on the front line along with a Farseer unit who can protect her from the range opponents. So she can take on Note and Legendary Seeker. Those two units in the Dark Season do have damage reduction, and Flavia excels in one-shotting them with Luna. Attack speed unity is extremely good when Note's menace skill is going to be debuffing you, and you're going to be on the front line as it is protected by a Farseer unit, so this is really important. And Spurn can be utilized so that you can just reduce the damage a bit more, because again Flavia doesn't get any kind of bulk from her weapon, and you certainly need a bit of bulk, especially when someone like Legendary Seeker is going to be hitting you with like his pre-charge special. So I've calced this, and Legendary Seeker, even the optimized one with plus attack IV, +1 merge all of the dragon flowers with Note support, is still going to be dying to Luna. Note can also get killed by Flavia in a single hit because she doesn't really care about her damage reduction either, but keep in mind that Note is going to be doing a lot more damage because of the weapon strangle advantage. So a build like this can be used to play into her strength and ignore the damage reduction on those annoying units. And you can also use her in Arena if you do have her at +10 merge, and she can be used with distant counter or distant stance at max investment. Even though her resistance is not that much, she can still be used with that skill so that she can retaliate back to units like Legendary Claude and just kill them with that Ruptured Sky, because keep in mind that she will be piercing through his Fallen Star damage reduction, and that can certainly be really helpful in Arena because Legendary Claude is an extremely hard unit to enemy phase. There's also E-Tree who can be really annoying, and you can just pierce through her damage reduction as well. Unfortunately, stuff like Legendary Corrin does have her damage reduction special, which her weapon does not pierce through. It only pierces through the passive skills which provide you the damage reduction and not the specials. Ruptured Sky is also at 1 cooldown, so even if she gets debuffed by a Ruse skill or she's facing an opponent with guard skill, she's still gonna be retaliating back with Ruptured Sky because of the special acceleration of her weapon. And many units have the guard skills or just run the Ruse skills in Arena, so this kind of build can be certainly helpful at max investment. Priam is yet another sword infantry unit with his preferred weapon Ancient Ragnall, which is a distant counter weapon of course because it's a Ragnall, and then it provides him with +3 defense, and it also has a secondary effect which can give the opponent -6 attack and defense debuff during the combat, and the condition for this is that he needs to have some kind of visible buff on himself, and that can be done with the Rouse skill that he comes with, or he needs to be above 50% HP. So pretty easy condition to meet, but honestly this kind of weapon is not really all that insane. Priam does have a pretty good stat spread of having again 41 base attack and 40 speed, pretty much similar to Flavia, which we have seen. He also has defense that he can use to tank hits, but despite Priam being solid with his stats, his preferred weapon certainly holds him back, because in this batch itself we received Yanfei, and he is just a better sword infantry unit because of having a distant counter weapon but with a speed based damage reduction built into it. So this is much better than the effect of Ancient Ragnall for many reasons. Yanfei can just run null follow up in the slot B and have both damage reduction and null follow up, whereas Priam has to choose between one or the other, and he can also just double down on his damage reduction and run another damage reduction skill to get 64% damage reduction, which is not really possible for Priam. And Yanfei is also a lot easier to plus and merge, whereas Priam is a 5-star locked unit, so there's not much of an incentive for most people to build him up or go after him unless you're a big fan of Priam. He has got Rouse Speed Defense 4 as a pretty nice fodder, and he also makes fantastic use of the skill for activating his ideal skill as well as his weapon. Priam's fodder is really good, and you should probably wait for some kind of Grail unit who has got attack defense ideal so that you can inherit the tier 4 version of the ideal skill along with one of the other skills which are premium like null follow up or even Rouse Speed Defense 4. So if you want to run Priam on a budget, then you can simply go with attack speed solo Sacred Seal and just run reposition on him, and his base kit is decent enough on this kind of budget for arena assault usage. And if you want to run him with some kind of skill that can increase his speed, because attack defense ideal is not the best option for slot A, then you can run speed resistant solo from Arc and have a solo Sacred Seal, and it does have good synergy with the Rouse skill that he comes with, and this can basically help him outspeed a lot more units and have a better matchup against them and make better use of null follow up. Similar to Yanfei, if you want to use Siri from the Divine Code section, then she can be used here as well with Casual Stance 3 and Close Call 3 if you want to run that on Priam. And the guard effect can certainly be helpful, especially when you get auto doubled or if you're going to be facing a unit like Ninja Lin. If you want to use them in summoner duels, then you can run a similar build to which I showed in Flavia's section. You can just run a damage reduction skill in slot B and have Adroit Captain give you the null follow up. A Rouse skill is not the best option, especially when you have to stick near your allies many times, so he's not going to be able to get the buff many of the times, so that will not be activating his ideal skill or his weapon. So that's why you can just run a menace skill on him, and the ideal skill is not the best option, but it's okay for summoner duels and providing him with that +9 attack and speed in both phases. And if you want to use him in arena, then he can be run with a tier 4 stance skill like Sus Stance, and run Darting Breath with a 2 cooldown special like Ruptured Sky. Guard effect is going to be pretty helpful against the brave hits, especially against someone like Ninja Lin. And then if you want to use him in Aether Raid's offense, then he can be run with the Unity skill in slot A so that he can just absorb the Bright Shrine debuffs or attack speed menace. And you can run him with Flames so that she can provide him with the damage reduction, as you can just run his default null follow up against the auto follow up units. And the self healing from Mystery Boost is going to be helpful, as well as improving his matchup against these staff units. Basilio is an Axe Infantry unit with Spirited Axe Plus as the inheritable weapon, and this is pretty much the non-seasonal version of Huge Fan Plus, and there are definitely better weapons that you can run in place of this, especially because we do have Steady Breath Sacred Seal that could be run on infantry units like him. And the stat spread is pretty standard that we have seen on many X-Infantry units, just having high attack stat, high defense, speed which is not really too high, not really too low, and also low resistance. He also gives attack tactic at 4-star rarity and attack defense bond at 5-star. So now we can compare him to the other Axe Infantry units that we have got recently, Balthus being the Gen 6 example and Kalik is the previous Gen Axe Infantry unit. So compared to Kalik, Basilio definitely scores better in arena. And as you can see by the comparison, Basilio pretty much puts all of his stats from resistance into speed, unlike these two, who can actually function as a mixed phase tank because they can run distant counter and tank some of the mages because of their resistance. Basilio unfortunately cannot really do that. His speed is definitely quite salvageable at max investment. As you can see, Kalik and Balthus have a lot lower speed. So I wouldn't really say that Basilio is better than any of these. He's basically like a side grade. It depends on which option you want, but most of the time people do like having a bit more resistance so that they can also take on mages, while as Basilio is pretty much restricted to the melee physical matchups. On a budget, you can just run Ignis so that you can make use of the special acceleration for a lot of damage, and you can also run attack defense form Sacred Seal. And Quick Repose is pretty much going to be needed at lower investment because Basilio is not going to be doubling naturally that much. At max investment, you can certainly use him with Unbound Axe Plus, which is basically going to be giving him lull attack defense with a solo condition, and that frees up your slot B skill, so you can just have Quick Repose in the slot B and run Steady Breath so that you can retaliate back with Ignis in a single round of combat and do a lot of damage. Sturdy Stance is going to be a fantastic skill with this kind of physical tank build, and the guard effect is much appreciated by a tank like Basilio. But like I said before, his speed is salvageable, so at max investment, if you want to invest into his speed, you could certainly do that. And Springy Axe Plus is certainly one of the axes which you can use to boost up his speed, and then just run double solo skills and also run Null Follow Up so that he can have better matchup against the follow-up negation units. And something like Joint Drive Speed or Attack Speed Menace in the slot C can further boost his speed. So with this kind of build, he can pretty much reach over 62 speed, which is not really all that bad. If you want to just continue with the speed builds, then Ninja Massacre Plus is also an option, and Basilio's attack is actually pretty good, so his quad attacks are going to be hurting. So you can just run Surge Sparrow so that he can be healthy while he triggers his Luna, and you can also run Blade Session just as another player phase oriented skill. Love Speed Defense or Null Follow Up are going to be good options for slot B so that he can do a lot more damage or have better matchup against the follow-up negation units, and basically just make use of the quad attacks while also enjoying the extra speed from Ninja Massacre. You can also run Shuriken Cleaver, but the true damage is not needed as much by Basilio as he needs the extra speed in my opinion. In Arena, I feel like investing into his speed is certainly going to be a better task than investing just into his attack with that Sturdy Stance build. It really depends if you want to run that build. You could also do that. Makes you a bit more bulky because the speed stat can definitely help you deny many of the doubles. Speed stat can also open up the usage of Null Follow Up so that he can double attack many of the follow-up negation units and not get auto doubled himself. And Unbound Axe is extremely good in Arena where people do use a lot of visible buffs, and then you can just run Darting Breath, which we have newly received, and just stack up a lot of speed with a slotty skill like Attack Speed Menace or Joint Drive Speed, which he has to run because he doesn't have a preferred weapon, so that is needed for optimal scoring. And with Darting Breath, he can retaliate back with Ruptured Sky. Balthus Kalik, his competitors, can have this kind of defense as it is, but they cannot reach the amount of speed that Basilio can reach, so I feel like this kind of build makes use of his speed stat and makes him a bit more unique compared to them, and that's going to be helping you if you choose to build him up over those other options. And if you want to use him in Aether offense, then of course units like near say Edelgard or near say Valentine Gustav are going to be really good options, but if you really want to use Basilio, then he can be used as a melee tank who's going to be covered by a far safe tank, and a standard Sturdy Stance build with Steady Breath Ignis is going to be doing a fine job. But for the weapon, Steadfast Axe is going to be really good because his attack is really high, so he can get targeted by Chill Attack or by Attack Speed Menace of note, so Steadfast Axe is going to be really helpful. Unfortunately, this is locked to 5-star lock to do, but if this weapon gets available in the Grail pool or in the Summon pool, then this is going to be a really nice option for Aether usage. So I hope you all enjoyed my review of these Awakening units. If you did, then make sure to share this video with their friends if they're thinking of building up any of these units. And if you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps me tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using Super Thanks or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH analysis videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Priam after looking at what kind of weapon Yenfei got. So that's it, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.